Hey everybody, welcome to the Fired Up with CJ show. Today we have Dr. Dinorah Nieves, and we were talking about her book, Love You, the workbook. So welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
So tell me a little bit about this book. I know that you are a professional development coach and behavioral scientist. That's your PhD. And how did you come to this body of work?
Yeah, so I actually experienced a lot of what is common for people in their 20s and early 30s. Some
Hmm.
toxic romantic relationships, some disconnect from their purpose at work, right? Just trying to figure it all out. And at the time, I was working in executive management at WJCS, Westchester Jewish Community Services, and a bunch of their community centers and community programs fell in my purview, right?
Hmm.
I had the Mary J. Blige Center for Women, and I had the Joe Torre Safe at Home Foundation's Margaret's Place, and a program for LGBTQ youth, which was called Center Lane. And so there were a number of community programs that I was overseeing. And I was
Hmm.
looking for models that could help me organize the work we were doing in those programs. And I came across Margaret Peggy Swarbrick's model of the 8 dimensions of wellness, right? So 2006, she put it out, and I was just running into it. And it really basically organized all of the wellness work into 8 dimensions. So it was
Hmm.
emotional, financial, social, spiritual, occupational, physical, intellectual, environmental. And it just really spoke to me because it took all of the work that we were doing from a community level, from a personal development perspective, and just brought it all together.
Hmm.
But of course, in a community organization, it's difficult to move all programs into one model. And so it kind of just stayed in the back burner of my mind.
Hmm.
And then when I went into private practice and started to write my book and thought about what I had experienced in my own personal life, I realized that maybe the reason this model had been brought to me and resonated so much was because it was really a picture, right? It really captured what I had been working on. And
Hmm.
so that's what I used to organize the book. And that's the way that I organize the work for the reader as well. So it's not just about my personal experiences and how they fell into these 8 dimensions, but also about how people can help improve their sense of wellness and well being through these 8 dimensions and working specific aspects of it.
And repeat, so I'm going to show the drawing that's in the front of the book that shows this,
Yeah.
but I don't know if everyone can read it, but can you actually tell us what, so
Yeah.
this is a circle of which, uh, what is the name of the doctor who created this?
So Peggy Swarbrick, right?
Okay.
I think she's written as Margaret Swarbrick, who
Hmm.
is a university professor at Rutgers
Hmm.
and works a lot in psychiatric rehabilitation and wellness.
Hmm.
And so she put together this model of the 8 dimensions.
Right.
And then what I did is I superimposed into it the three activities in each dimension that really helped me to improve my sense of well being as I moved forward into a happier, healthier, more productive version of who I am.
Ah,
So,
I
what,
see. Got
yeah,
it.
so what you have there is the 24 activities, three in each of the 8 dimensions of wellness that I suggest to readers and to viewers and to people who are looking to do this work as possible ways to enhance how they feel, how they perform in these particular areas.
Okay, so I'm going to read through these. So they're emotional, which you've mentioned,
Yes.
financial wellness, social wellness, strengthening your connection, spiritual wellness, soothing your soul, occupational wellness, balancing your career, physical wellness, honoring your body, intellectual wellness, expanding your mind, and environmental wellness, celebrating your surroundings. So these are
Mhm.
all the kind of components that are that I and you probably know this as a coach. There's this life coaching wheel, the wheel of life, where they talk about
Yes.
the major parts of your life. And so this seems to be like another way of expressing it, but from more of an internal focus versus an external focus to me. Yes, but
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah, and the other thing I appreciated about this model is how concrete it was, right? Because I think, and I know you probably experienced this as a coach as well, it can be very esoteric work, right?
hmm.
And some of it really is about just philosophical change,
Hmm.
right? And emotion change in a way necessarily track. And there's that validity to that. It's legitimate. But some of it is just about getting up and going to the gym, or,
Right.
maybe putting a water fountain in your space so that you have some connection to nature while you're in the middle of your work. So some of it can really be tangible and concrete. And that's what I appreciated about using this model and being able to play with this model a little bit, that it allows people to have that almost
Yeah.
immediately.
Yeah. And,
Yeah.
it's funny because I was just going through a workshop on my own. We were doing goal planning, and they're just tools that you end up, it's like a hammer or a screwdriver. Some of these tools that are actually in this book or just generally offered in coaching, or tools that you'll use, like you can use for the rest of your life if you have them and
Absolutely.
you know what the tool involves and when to use it.
Yeah.
So I wanted to go through some of the tools,
Yes.
and I'm going to, as I always do in a lot of my shows, is use myself as a guinea pig as a way to go through the model. So, and
Let's
my
do it.
situation is to, so as of this coming September or August or I don't know, July, my son is going to be leaving for college, and my husband and I are going to be empty nesters. And I just got this. I just got a not an astrological. What is it? It's called the Chinese 9-star key, and
Oh,
it is
wait, I'm
basically
making a note. Chi-
Chinese 9-star key, and I got it from Jean Hainer, who does Chinese face reading, which is just marvelous piece of work.
Love it.
And it talks about basically that each person has different elements that dictate the energies of every year has an energy associated with it, and it's related to a particular element. So this
Mhm.
year, mine is about mountain, and it's
Okay.
about getting clear. So I just got a reading from her. She has this little MP3 you can download, and it was all about contemplation and reflection and reflecting what. And it was couldn't have been more perfectly timed, because what she said in this generalized reading that she does for anyone born in my year. But she said, so here's the specific reading for you, but it's anyone born in, in my case, 1963.
Okay.
So she had this reading, and she was saying it's all about contemplating the that this year, 2018, was all about letting go. And the next year is getting super clear about what you want to continue letting go and what you want to build, and reflecting on that.
Yeah.
So I thought, okay, perfect. So I just got that yesterday, and I had
Nice.
started reading your book, and I had flagged some of the exercises I thought I'd want to go
Yeah.
back and do. And I thought I'd do them with you together.
Yes, let's
Okay.
do it.
All right. So one was this model of self change. So you have on page
Mm-hmm.
41
Yes.
this
The
model.
trans theoretical model.
Yeah. So it's
Yeah.
by Shoemaker. Is that right?
Yes. Yep. So Shoemaker and Reichardt.
And I'm going to
Yeah.
show this picture. I don't know if it helps you at all in seeing the picture or not. I can point to the part, but tell me a little bit about how this model works.
Yeah, so I know this model well actually because we did use this in one of our community programs to track how people were changing. So
Mm-hmm.
really, we've got a couple of steps here. We've got pre-contemplation, and
Mm-hmm.
that's when you don't even really know that anything is going on,
Right.
right? And so you're not really ready to change because there's really nothing that you think needs to be changed,
Right.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Then you move into the contemplation stage, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which a lot of people are usually when they come to our work.
Ah.
They're aware that something may not be right, but they're not
Hmm.
necessarily sure or ready to figure it out, right?
Right. It says
And
you
so
were
you're
ready to change, but you haven't really begun the process. Okay, got it. Okay.
exactly, exactly.
Okay.
So then they move into the preparation stage. In the preparation stage, we have a good sense of what we want to work on, and we also now have a good sense of what we may need to do to work on it.
Okay.
And so now we're really starting to get our ducks in a row, right?
Okay.
Do I have the money? Do I have the time? Do I have the support? Do I have the resources? How do I start to line things up in such a way that it will facilitate me moving forward into the execution of this new life, right?
Okay.
So that's preparation. Then you have action. Action is sort of the easiest to identify of the stages. You're actually taking steps to do what it is that you wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
Now, for a lot of people, they think that action is achievement.
Right.
But actually, action is just where you're practicing what it is you're learning in order to help you move forward.
Got it.
And so
Okay.
the next phase is maintenance. And
Okay.
maintenance, I think, for me, is the harder of all of the stages
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
because maintenance is really where you are practicing in real time all of the action that you've taken as a result of your preparation and your contemplation and all of these new awarenesses, right?
Mm-hmm.
So maintenance is where we kind of want to live our life.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when you're doing some sort of focused program, the next phase would be termination, right? You've
Mm-hmm.
gotten so good at the maintenance phase that you don't need to focus on this anymore. And
Right.
so you're moving into another practice.
Right.
But you can vacillate back and forth, as many people often do, as I often do. I think I'm very zen until I hit that traffic,
Right.
and then I'm back in maintenance. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Or, I've achieved all of these wonderful skills that I'm teaching and working, and then that one person from my
Right.
childhood
You're like,
triggers something up,
ah! Yeah,
and I'm
exactly.
like, oh yeah, I'm gonna have to not answer my phone for 72 hours
I
while I
love
journal
it.
this out. So so that's really the model. And
Okay, and how do I know what? So I know that, so this is the model to reiterate. These are you said experts leave. There are several phases in the change process. So if I were to put myself in this model about the empty nesting, yes, I've been contemplating.
yeah,
I don't know if I'm fully ready for this change, but
yeah,
I have been kind of contemplating the process. I'm
yeah.
starting to plan and work out what needs to happen for making the change. And I have been doing actions like throughout because my eldest son just left for college. So I've been kind of going through like stages of what to expect when I'm going through the empty nest, but I haven't fully gotten there, but I have kind of a little
Yeah,
preview of what to expect.
yeah.
So I can see how this model would work. And in maintenance, I can see is just getting used to being in this new empty nest space. And
The
then I
new
don't,
normal.
yeah, that's my new normal. And I don't know what termination looks like, but I guess that's when I die. Um,
Well,
no, but
termination would be when you've practiced it so long that the new normal no longer really
yeah,
requires very
yeah. So
much
I'm sure
effort
like
from
there's
you,
a well,
right?
and so I can say with when my first son left, it took about 3 months to integrate the change. I mean, I wasn't like a rock, sitting on my couch, but it was like, wow, this is hard. Wow, his bedroom is empty. That's so
Mm-hmm.
weird. What am I going to do with that
Mm-hmm.
bedroom being
Mm-hmm.
empty that I walk by every
Yeah.
day?
Yeah.
And then I thought, well, I'm going to meditate in that room. So there's going to be energy in that space versus just there's a little blank space for where his. It's just so sad. So,
I'm gonna
so,
fill the emptiness with
yeah.
love.
Yeah, so I did. I filled that space so that it
Yeah.
didn't feel empty anymore, and
Yeah.
the room has kind of its purpose when he comes home is like it's not like how sometimes when you come home and it just feels empty, like
Yeah.
no one's been in there. So
Yeah.
I was
Sterile.
yeah. Yeah, so
Yeah.
I've been in there so it doesn't feel that way for me or for him when he returns home. So those were the kinds of things, and just getting used to like our cadence and rhythm, like how often we were going to talk. We used to talk every day. Now it's once a week. And, sometimes it's not once a week because he gets busy with exams like this year. And like right at this very moment, he's in finals. So I'm kind of
Right.
getting used to I have a preview of what to expect with my second son, but I
Mhm.
don't really have a real preview until he's gone. You know what I mean? I
Yeah.
don't think I have a
Yeah. Yeah.
real
Yeah.
true sense. So
Because
that's
the
who I
thing
am.
is too about you having two children, right?
Mhm.
So the first one exiting
Mhm.
still kept you in mom role for the second one,
Yes.
right? But
Yes.
the second one is not just about a change in mother to child dynamic. It's about a change in the way you identify.
Yes,
So
that's
that's
really
big.
astute. Yeah, it is. It
Yeah.
is a big. What even with the first one leaving, I can feel and see the shifts in mom. You're so identified as a mom, and that's your role, and that's your value add. And I'm still going to be his mom. My children's mom, but the role that you play, the amount of responsibilities that you have or greatly diminished if you want them to be independent, which I do.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just about
Mm-hmm.
saying, okay, letting go of those roles that I used to play. So,
Yeah.
and actually, so my son had come back for Christmas or Thanksgiving break, and my husband and I were offering advice, and I could tell he was getting frustrated. And I said, "So what's happening?" And he said, "I don't. It's hard when you give me advice because I know that you're well-meaning and you're trying to help me out, but there's also a part of me that wonders if you just don't have faith in me." And I thought, "Oh
Mm-hmm.
my gosh, like I just, and thank
Mm-hmm.
goodness we have like boys that can even communicate with us
Yeah,
in
for
this
sure.
way."
That's a really emotionally intelligent
Yeah,
statement for
I
him to
know.
make.
And
Yeah.
I thought, wow, he's right. I can totally see that. And I said, you're right. And I
Yeah.
thought about it and I said, it really has to do with recognizing the diminishing value that I have to offer because you are having your own experiences and your own wisdom to share. And so it's just this not diminishing, but it's like your role and
Shifting.
huh?
Shifting.
Yeah, it's shifting. It's like that's no
Yeah.
longer he's been hearing me offer my pearls of wisdom for,
Yeah.
20 years
Yeah.
and he's baked, like I could try to jam a couple more things into the oven,
Yeah. Yeah.
but
Yeah.
like
Yeah. Well,
it's
and
not
here's
worth
the
it.
reality. He's shifting. And as he shifts, what he will require will shift, but also you'll have new opportunities to redefine the value that you
Yeah.
add because he'll find himself in new opportunities that
Yes.
he is sort of starting to negotiate. I think people, I experienced this in my relationship. My partner now was really helpful in teaching me this. And I talk about this with parents, and I have stepdaughters and whatever. I think that when people shut us off, right, we take it as an offense. So I think what happens is when people shut us off in some way, we take it to mean that what we are offering must not be valuable to them,
Hmm.
right? And that's offensive and that's hurtful. But what I've started to learn, and I'm still practicing it, right, is that people can't hear themselves over us sometimes. And so there's a necessary shutting off that has to happen, particularly if you like me, because I'm loud
Right.
and an extrovert, right? And so there's a necessary shutting off that has to happen for them to be able to hear themselves internally.
Right.
And when they get better at that process, they'll come back for
Right.
a dialogue, right? But then it becomes really a dialogue as opposed to, my preferred soliloquy
Right. Right.
of what all the things I want to say, that people may not be ready to hear.
Yeah, that's really astute. You're saying that he has his own inner wisdom and voice that's turning on, and he wants to hear that. And when I'm like yabbering ideas, which may at a
Yeah.
younger age would have been fine, at this current age is not really valuable because he needs
Yeah.
to develop a relationship with. Totally makes sense. Okay, so the
Yeah. Yeah.
next step
You've
in
gone from being a director to being a supportive bystander.
yeah, and that's part of what, and I know how to do that because I'm a coach, but it's very different when you're a mother and a coach. Like somehow, as you were talking about when you're driving traffic, like all of those skills get thrown out the
Yeah.
window.
We're
Like,
human.
yeah, so when you're a mom and you're a coach, you're like, don't forget, and then you're like, oh my God, like I would never say that to a client, but
Yeah.
there's like a little what I've been noticing over time is I have been switching over to a coach mode and just like, so what do you think? Or what do you think is the next step so that he can hear his inner voice? But I think that it hasn't, it's under the action and maintenance
Yeah,
stage.
exactly.
Yeah.
That's
So I
the
think that that's
hardest
what,
part. That's why I started off by saying that is the hardest part for
yeah.
me, right?
Yeah, it
Is
is.
not necessarily learning the behavior change or even practicing the behavior change enough to know it, right? But really knowing it from such a place that it is your new normal, that it is
Right.
the way you communicate, that it is your language, that it is what comes in and doesn't have to be filtered and altered and changed, whatever.
Right. Yeah. It's just your
So
new way of being.
it's just your new way of being. And we're probably, or let me speak for myself, I am a million times better at it than I ever was before.
Yeah. Well, I think
But
what
I
the
fall
yeah,
short all the time.
I think what's valuable about having this model is like one, mapping where you are, and two, giving yourself compassion, right? So, yeah, it's maintenance. It's hard. So I'm
Mhm.
maintaining and I'll continue. And at one point, I'll get it just like everything else in life. And then I can, let it terminate. So,
Yeah.
so I get that. And then, so there's this three column thing. What am I supposed to do with this? So I understand the theory of change, and then there's your in your workbook you suggest what behavior might you want to change. So I talked about, okay, I want to change, be more hands off, become more of a coach. Um, I want to basically, so this is, or so I'll just take that one so it's not super long.
Okay.
Stage, what stage of change do you find yourself in? Okay, so I'm in maintenance on that. And what
Hmm.
strategy can you try to help push you from one stage to the next? Um, well, what I've done, I think what I haven't done in what I can do is talk to my son and say, hey, I'm going through this change. It's kind of rocky sometimes.
Yeah.
So I just need your help in kind of telling me hands off. I may need a little bit of practice, but
Accountability partners are a great strategy.
yeah. Yeah, so I can see that.
Yeah.
So this is an example of the exercise that you did in your book, and then you have a series of questions afterwards.
Right.
So what would be the
Yeah.
questions that you would ask based on what should we go through these questions, or what would you like
Sure,
to
we
do?
can do it. The purpose of the reflections, right, at the end of the exercises is to help you get a sense for whether or not you're responding well to the workbook. And I
Okay.
tell people that because I'm honest about the
Mhm.
work that I offer, right?
Mhm.
It works for me. It worked for me. And it has worked for my clients, and I hope that it will work for an inordinate amount of people. But the fact of the matter is that different people respond to different things. And
Mhm.
so I want people not just to be learning the skills that I'm teaching, but also to be observers of their own learning process
Mhm.
so that they're figuring out how they interact with this book, right? Because
Mhm.
ultimately, as a coach, our job is to talk ourselves out of a job.
Right.
That's really what we're trying to do.
Right.
We're trying to teach not just the skills, but the way of thinking about and learning those skills so that people can do it without us.
Right.
So that's the point of the reflection, to really look at if it's helping you. If it's not helping you, what might you want to go back and look at differently,
Ah,
right?
okay.
If
Mhm.
it is helping you, how can you enhance it, right? So I ask people to look at going into this, how did you feel? Did
Mhm.
you feel anxious? Were you afraid? Did you think this isn't going to work on me? Or maybe I don't need this, right? Those are all normal responses
Right.
to going into new work,
Right.
right? And then you found it difficult to what? We all have little pieces of us that get triggered as we're trying to change. What
Right.
was the hardest thing for you here? Right? So
Right.
that's a good question for you, CJ, and I can tell you my own. What was the most difficult part of this?
Um, Actually, just thinking about everything that has changed, because there's a lot. I think that there's so many different things, from the physical absence of them and the energy being new
Hmm.
parenting methods and techniques. I didn't realize that there's a lot of stuff packaged into the person leaving, and then also my changing role and
Right.
what will that look like. So there's a lot of I would say, let's say that as much as there are lots of, of fabric woven together, there are now as many strands cut apart that I have to like, oh wow, I didn't realize when he went, this also changed. Like, the my
The
work.
domino effect.
Yeah, yeah, and it's not necessarily, it's not even like they're like, it's dominoes are like visible and you can see them all moving in a sequence. This feels more like just little strands that I didn't even
Hmm.
know that
Hmm.
existed, but that when the relationship was altered, some things got rearranged. Like, I don't think that like, let's say that we cut some pieces of connective tissue, the connection's still there, but they're rearranged in a slightly different way. And I don't, and some of them I've been cognizant about, but I'm realizing that there's so many things that we're
Right.
not. I don't think people prepare us enough. We spend a
Yeah.
lot of time when you have a baby,
Yeah.
there's like what to expect when you're expecting, and they're like,
Yeah.
everything from like changing diapers is going to be different, and here's the car seat, and there's like all these logistical things, which first of all, there are not a lot of books on that when you
Mm.
become an adult. Like it's the
Right.
parenting books just drop down like this.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
There's like,
We
discipline,
hope
all
you
those
figured
things.
it out.
Yeah,
Good luck.
exactly. Yes, like good luck to you. Exactly. There's not, I know because I've been looking for
You
those
didn't
books.
get it by now.
Yeah,
Just go get it.
exactly. It's over. But the parenting experience continues, but it's in a different form. But there are not a
Yeah,
lot of books about it. There's just like teenager, and then it drops into nothingness. It goes into
right.
general psychology, which there is still a relationship and a role. So I think that there's not a lot of resources. As you have like when you first have a baby, right? Like what is the emotional development? What's the physical
Yeah,
development? You have all these landmarks, and you have kind of a little checklist, and you're running in your head of like, okay, this is what I should expect at
yeah,
this point emotionally. This is what I should
yeah,
expect physically with my kids. This is what I should be expecting. And in this case, it's like you're looking both a parallel track at what's happening with your kids, and then you're also looking at yourself. Like this is what's happening to me emotionally. This is what's
yeah,
happening to me physically.
yeah,
Like all those
yeah.
kinds of things.
And let me offer this because I see this happen a lot with clients, and I spent a lot of time working with parents. I also see this happen in my life because I've got stepdaughters, and my partner is a wonderful father, but trying to figure this all out with two girls in their early 20s. And so here's the other thing that I would offer as sort of an outsider
Hmm.
is that parents get something from their children. And
Hmm.
I don't think they allow themselves permission to admit that because when you're a parent, you fall into this idea and this way of thinking that you're supposed to be here for them. And
Hmm.
so you don't feel comfortable admitting that there's a piece of that relationship that satisfies you and is about you and is about giving you what you need. But it
Hmm.
is, and it's normal, and it's appropriate, and it's perfect, and it's fine. So if you allow yourself to admit that, then you can adjust for that when that starts to change. So you have needs that are being met by this relationship,
Hmm.
right? You have ways that you're being validated by this relationship. Admit that to yourself.
Hmm.
Because as this relationship changes, you're going to need to change the way you get your validation and the way you get those needs met. And that's okay. You deserve that. You
Right.
deserve to be validated.
Yep.
You deserve to have those needs met. But how do you plan to do that differently now that the source of that has changed a little bit, right?
Right. Yes, I think that that's really um, what's interesting. As I was talking to some of my girlfriends, as their children have left for college, that you have a very, every parent has a unique relationship and dynamic with that child. So, with my eldest son, my relationship with him was like of we would have these conversations about the meaning of life, and we would have these very deep questions about the meaning of life. And so and we would talk a lot, like every day. I'd hang out with him before he went to sleep, and we would talk like and process the
Yeah.
day. So when he left, that connection, I can't talk to him every night when he's in college. I mean, I could, but
Hmm.
I want him to be
Yeah,
free.
nobody was that. Yeah, yeah,
So I said, I want you to be free. Let's just, we'll talk to you. And now it's like his dad is on the line versus me on the line. And
yeah.
and
Yeah.
and those times are getting, like he came for
Less.
Thanksgiving, and so now there's like, 3 days or whatever before he takes off, and then pretty soon, he's not even going to be coming back for Thanksgiving or Christmas, those kinds of things. So
Yeah.
it's about building, and I have that intimacy and relationship and connection with my husband, so it's not as if there's going to be a gap, but it will just be a missed
It'll shift.
presence. Yeah, things will shift. So, and I have lots of friends, so it's not as if it's oh, what to do, what was me. I mean,
Yeah.
I'll have another place to have that, I think.
But also, how do you ask your child for what you need? So, hey, it dawns on me that we don't have our nightly talks anymore, and I know you're growing up, so can we turn them into monthly talks? Right?
Right,
I don't want to lose that with you.
right.
And so, how can we have that? I think parents do themselves a disservice by not wanting to ask their children for what they
Hmm.
need.
Hmm.
I get it. I get it because they see themselves as the caretaker. And so they see it as selfish, right? As
Mm-hmm.
expecting some sort of reciprocation. But I think they do everyone a disservice because your parents model for you what it means to be an independent, self-sufficient human being in the world, whether you like it or not.
Yeah.
Especially as you're growing up, whether you like it or not. They
Right.
do. And so learning to ask your children for what you need is a way of teaching them the skill and the confidence to, in the world, ask the people that they love for what they need. And that's an
Right.
important tool for us to be passing on.
Yeah, so I'm going to have us move to this part, which is, and
Yeah.
in your book, it's called "Be
Are you
Honest,"
telling the truth?
and it's a truth-based bond, and there are a series of questions. Do you want me to read them out loud, or do you? It's on page
Go for it.
125.
Yeah, sure. No, I'd love you to do that.
Yeah. So then,
I'm looking at it as
okay.
well.
So it's so these are questions that you ask. What truths about yourself are you holding back from them? And okay, I'll do it with my youngest son because
Go
we've
for it.
talked about my eldest son already. But for him, the connection is physical. It's like there's so much affection that we have that we always are giving each other hugs and we're teasing each other, and I'll just miss that. And
Mhm.
then what things do your relationship bother or hurt you? Well, that he's leaving, and so that I have a hard time for my eldest son, who I have a very close talking relationship. We still talk, so that's still intact. But I worry about my younger son because our relationship is literally being physically present with each other and seeing each other. So, what truths about them are you most scared to face that we'll lose our connection because I'm not going to see him physically? Getting
Mhm.
tired, like going to get
So yeah,
weepy.
let's
So, what
stop
are
there for a
so
second. Take
yeah,
a breath.
yeah,
'Cause
no,
you're in real time, right?
yeah,
Let's stop there and let's take a breath because I think specifically you who do such a good job being a demonstrator for or demonstration for your viewers,
hmm,
this is what the process is like. It gets real, real, real fast.
yeah, yeah,
When you start asking yourself these questions that you've kind of been afraid to ask yourself before,
yeah,
right? What are you the most afraid to lose? Because,
yeah.
somebody said to me one day that all fear is a fear of loss. And I don't know
Hmm.
that that's true, although I haven't come up with anything to disprove it. Right?
Love it. Yeah,
But that's a really good question, and that's where we all get emotional. I get emotional when I get there all the time when I have to ask myself these questions. What am I
yeah,
afraid of losing? Right?
yeah.
I'm afraid of losing that connection.
Right.
I'm afraid that our relationship won't be able to transform in the way it looks and yet keep the way it feels,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Because I've associated the feeling with the logistics,
Right. Yeah,
right?
that's a good one.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so how do you change that? That's a thing for
Yeah,
you
it's
and your
hard.
son to
So
really start to
why are
look
you
at.
afraid to bring your concerns? Because it's like, oh, I'm the adult, so I should figure this out. Is kind of how I'm thinking about, which is going back to the thing that you're saying.
And going back to that first question, right? Because again, I drew this as a circular model, but as we talked about even with the linear models, you're going to go back and forth between things, right?
Mm-hmm.
That takes you right back to the first question,
What
which is
truths about
what
yourself?
truths about yourself are you holding back from them? And the truth you're holding back from them is that you have needs,
Mm-hmm.
real
Mm-hmm.
desires,
Mm-hmm.
real wants, real requirements, real demands, real
Right.
requests that
Right.
are valid and legitimate and that you deserve to have, despite the fact that you brought them in and decided you were going to take care of them.
Right.
That over these years, you've built a bond that may require some reciprocating, and you want to know if they're up for a real conversation.
Yeah. No, that's good. I like
Are
that.
you up for this? I know I've been taking care of you for 20 years, but it turns out and I have told you about what that was like for me, that I would like to talk about today. The real conversation.
I like that.
And a
So,
really good one, you
yeah,
know?
and I
Or
love here's
just play them our conversation
right.
and have them
Exactly. Just
check
listen to
it out,
this.
right?
This will save you time. You like watching YouTubes.
Exactly.
Okay, so here's some things that now that you actually have mapped this out. So it's and on the next page you have like a dialogue, even like things that you can say. So
Yeah.
I believe that you mean well, or hear when you say, understand how difficult it can be for you. Okay, so I understand how difficult it can be for you to connect. I'm going to do this with my eldest
Yeah.
son.
Yes, love it. Let's do it.
To connect with me on and have conversations because I know that you're really busy at school. Still,
Mm-hmm.
I want you to know that I experience that as a loss of connection. Yeah.
I'm going to hold mine up while
Yes.
you do it. Yeah.
Still,
Yeah.
want you to know that I experience that as a loss of connection. And for whatever reason, I feel like a loss. And for me, the difficulty lies in knowing that that's going to happen over time more and more because you'll be
Mhm.
growing away and moving in different places and we won't see each other. So
Mhm.
the things that I would like you to do would be to, always commit to coming for Thanksgiving. That's one thing that we realized last Thanksgiving.
Good.
Um, Always, I believe it would help me if you, even during your summer break, or we can come visit you, or you can come visit us to reserve, a certain number of times per year where we
Oh.
connect. So I'm asking you to please book your calendar. Okay, so
Yeah.
whatever it is.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Or something that is, once a week or
Mm-hmm.
something that is once a month. Ask for what you really want because the thing that I think trips people up, particularly parents, is they get into this request stage and rather than asking for what they really want and trusting that the other person will ask for what they want and then negotiating to meet somewhere in the middle, they start in the middle. I know my kid. I know what they're going to want to do. I know what they're going to want to resist. And so then you build your ask around what you think they would want
Right.
as
Yeah,
opposed
they're
to
too
what you want.
busy. Like that
And
once a
it's
month
the
is too
opposite.
much. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Right?
You're already pre-negotiating and they haven't even said anything.
My mother requires I call her every morning. I am 38 years old. I have a PhD. I have a man. I live on two different coasts. She cares this much about it. She requires I call her every morning. Now, she communicates very differently than what we're advising here. So when I don't call her, it looks more like this. So you remembered you have a mother? Yeah, yeah, mama. I got my bad. I woke up late. Oh, okay. I was just wondering if you remembered you had a mom. Okay, all right. Call me later. Right? I swear to God, you can't make this stuff up, right? This is what it
Love
sounds like.
it.
Here's the thing. There were times in my life I absolutely resented it, without
Yeah.
question.
Yeah.
Without question. If I felt like it was entitled, there were times in my life where I was like, I never agreed to this little situation, right? Of course. But I'm a grown woman now, and here's what it taught me. It taught me it's okay to expect what you expect and to negotiate it from there, right?
Mm-hmm.
It taught me that even when people resent your expectations, you get to have them, and they
Mm-hmm.
may just come around.
Yeah.
That's okay,
Yeah.
you know? And even though it took us 10 years for me to be okay with the constant morning call followed by the guilt if I forget it, I wouldn't wake up and not call my mama. I swear I won't. And
Yeah.
everybody who knows me knows that's the first part of my day. And my man will go do whatever he needs to do, pray, meditate, run around, anything he needs to do while I'm on the phone with my mama, and then he'll pop in. You know why? Because everybody knows that's how I start the day.
That
Right?
is actually very sweet.
So
That's
ask for
sweet.
what you want.
Yeah, if your
Really
mom
ask
hadn't
for what you
asked you
want.
for what she wanted, then you wouldn't be even going down this path.
And she would probably resent it, right?
Yeah.
And it'll shift. There was a time where I needed my mother, to tell me and teach me and do a lot of things for me. And she doesn't have that opportunity as much anymore. And so I go over there and she overcooks. It's just what she does. And I overeat, and that's how we compensate for the pieces of our relationship that are no longer the same.
You need to work on that one because isn't the health piece in here too?
Yeah, well, also there's the don't judge yourself. I like that picture.
That's true. That's good. All
You
right.
know,
So I
so
love it.
it'll look differently and you'll find different ways to make it look and feel good, but do not be afraid to ask for what you need. And don't base what you ask for on whether or not you think another person will deliver.
I like
That's
that a
on them
lot.
to figure out.
I love that. All right. So one of the things that I wanted to pop into is also this because I think what this is in your section on page 86, balancing your career, which is part of the
Mhm.
wheel. And I love this as a coach. Um, I
The
haven't figured,
ikigai.
yeah, I haven't figured out exactly how to use it. So maybe you can show me.
Yeah, let me go
I've
through it.
done, so this is actually the drawing. I don't know if people can see it. Yeah, there it is.
Yeah.
So it's looking at the intersection of that which you love, that which you're good at, that which you can be paid for, and that which the world needs.
Yeah.
And the intersection of that which you love and that which you're good at is passion. And the
Mm-hmm.
intersection of that which you're good at and that which you can be paid for is your profession. And that which you are good, that you get paid for, and that which your world needs is your vocation. And that which you love and that which your world needs is your mission. So
Yeah.
this is the diagram.
And
So tell me how, and
so
I'd be,
where your mission, your passion, your profession, and your vocation overlap, that's your ikigai. Now, I
okay,
cite where you can find this model, which is Garcia and Morales, but this is a really popular way of life in Okinawa, right?
mm-hmm.
And actually, studies have shown that people who really focus on their ikigai even live longer. I mean, they're some of
Wow.
the longest lasting of us in Okinawa. And so it's a very, very popular way of life
Mm-hmm.
there
Mm-hmm.
for them. And I use this with my clients just to help them get a better understanding of not just what they want to do, but where it went off track.
Mm. Mm.
Because what I realized after I started working with people using this model is that it's easy to see how people figured their career out. They either based it on where they were good. I did that for a while. High,
Mm-hmm.
right? I thought I loved something, but it was just that, right? Like budgets. Nobody
Right.
loves budgets, but I thought I loved budgets. Why did I think that? Because I'm crazy. But here's what I realized, that it was something I was good at. And what I really loved was being good at something. And
Mm.
I convinced myself that I loved this thing I was good at, but what I really loved was feeling that I was good at it, right?
Mm.
That was a
Mm-hmm.
powerful awareness for me
Yeah.
when I realized that. So, how many of us have built our careers around what we're good at and
Mm-hmm.
ignored the things that we love and ignored the things that the world needs from us and ignored the things that, we even really could be paid better for, right?
Right. Right.
Or the opposite. How many of us have built our what we could be paid well for and ignored the things we're better at or ignored the things we loved? So yes, there's power in looking at this to figure out what we really want to do, but there's also power in this model in looking at where we went off track. What
Mm.
did we
Okay.
really build our career around? And so how do we take the emphasis off of that a little and expand in some of these other areas?
Okay. All right. So I actually gave you, because I haven't used this model yet. What I
Hmm.
do with my clients and that I've done myself is getting a sense of what I love. So
Hmm.
I'll show you some of these things and maybe you can help me figure out how the model works. So
Yeah, yeah.
I love creativity. I love personal growth. I love spirituality. I love helping others. I love learning. Those are all the things I love.
Good.
That one I'm good at. I'm very goal oriented. I'm very I'm pretty good working on my own. I'm pretty independent. I like drive. Have really good drive and initiative. I'm good at working with people. I'm a planner. I'm practical. I'm good at ideation. I'm good at asking questions, listening, and
Good.
people seem to trust me.
Okay.
And that which the world needs, I think the world needs is really to right now. I feel like the world is predominantly focused on fear and suffering. So I think more love and balance is what's needed in the world. That's what I would
Hmm.
say.
Hmm.
And more, I think understanding
Mm.
would be the thing I think the world needs. Love, understanding, balance, peace. And that I get paid for. Well, I've been paid for coaching and doing facilitation, mediation, and training.
So to me, if I was, the person that was taking this assessment in
Hmm.
these like very short conversations, you really are living your ikigai, right?
Okay.
And what I saw as an overlap as you went through those things was people
Hmm.
and learning,
Hmm.
right? So there's a real focus on education, either learning or teaching or both,
Hmm.
right? There's a real focus on helping other people. So
Hmm.
something that's about facilitating communication or bringing balance, right? Or teaching
Hmm.
some of those skills. So for me, you're really on course.
Hmm.
Now, the tricky part, I know you didn't ask me this, but the
No, it's
tricky
good. Yeah.
part of being other oriented is that we can overinvest in the way that other people are performing. or the way that other people are feeling,
Yep.
right?
Fair enough. Yep.
Right. So that's the tricky part of your path, this path that you've chosen, is you have to also figure out who would you be for yourself, by yourself, with yourself if there were no one else.
Right.
So that you're not so other focused that you're depending on them for the things you need to balance yourself, because you can't be the source if you also are the empty, you
Right.
know?
That's pretty
So,
profound. That's huge because you're an extrovert too. I'm sure you
yeah,
face this, right? Because as an extrovert, you're so much gaining energy from working with others. And
right.
as it relates to the empty nest stuff, it's basically when your kids leave, then
Yeah,
the others are leaving out the door, right? So
right,
this whole
right,
connection of
right.
what would you be without
Yeah,
the other is actually
yeah.
really profound question. So I
But
don't
you
know.
have an answer. No, you
Okay.
have an answer. You just have to focus yourself in that direction. Because one of the things you started off by telling me when
Mm-hmm.
you were doing this assessment is your creativity.
Right.
And your creativity, which I talk about also in the workbook in terms of expanding your mind, is a way that you connect to something that's a higher power, right? I,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what that is for you. And I tell people all the time, I'm not invested in other people believing in God. You can
Right.
believe in Con Ed as long as you can admit you don't turn your own lights on. You know what I mean? It's just about getting a sense of the fact that your ego doesn't run the world, right?
Right. Yes.
So connecting with a higher power or a higher calling or a higher energy or whatever it is outside of yourself is where creativity is a beautiful conduit for channeling, right? For transcendental meditation or living or thinking or however you
Mm-hmm.
think of that experience. So tap your creativity, and especially as your boys leave, because your creativity is what's going to help you define who you are for yourself, by yourself, without anyone else.
Mm-hmm.
Because you really are going to be able to define yourself without that external energy.
Yeah, I love the who you are by yourself.
For yourself, with yourself, if there were
Mm-hmm.
no one else. My clients hate this question.
Who
If
are
you
you,
poll
or you,
my
who are you,
clients,
this is perfect, who you are by yourself, for yourself, with myself. Is that right?
right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Who are you for yourself, by yourself, with yourself, in
Yeah.
the absence of anybody else?
Right. I think that's a really good question.
Yeah.
Because I think that, it's interesting because if I do have a spiritual practice, and my spiritual practice is, it's called non-dual. So it's that you're never separate. So the whole
Hmm.
idea is that you're never separate from anybody because you're
Hmm.
always in unity. Tantric, which is
I
that
love
you
that.
you actually are in the real world experiencing and through your life experience separate, and then Shavite, which is that it's based on Shiva, which is a Hindu god, but it's the beliefs are that you are never by yourself,
Mm-hmm.
and everything that you do is both for yourself and for everything that you do, if not driven by ego, is for yourself, for your highest purpose, because it's called seva. In that case, it's a devotional practice to God, Con Ed, or whatever you want to call it. So, you know what I mean? Like it's you're devoting thing that there's a higher power beyond me, and that higher power, there's a higher power inside of me, and that higher power is always driving me. And therefore, anything that I'm doing is not only for myself, it may be for others, but it's also for myself. And in myself, I don't know what that in myself means.
When you're just focused internally,
Hmm.
right? When you're sitting actually in how you feel, what you think, in all the stuff that you avoid by going out here,
Yeah,
right? So when you're actually within,
yeah,
which is really super scary at first.
yeah, yeah.
God knows there was all kinds of stuff going on in there that nobody wants to do. But I think that once you get more comfortable in it, it makes even being out here a lot more comfortable,
Yeah, so in
right?
this
Because you're
model
not
would
using this
say,
as a distraction.
yeah, in this model would say in myself means like you're fully, if you're in yourself, and if there it's non-dual, which means that divine
Mm,
grace is already in you, that when you're in yourself, you can actually feel the limitness and infiniteness of of potentiality because it's already inside of you
I
versus
love
feeling
that.
incomplete. So you don't have to go out and
Right,
reach and help and grab and do all
right,
these different things because it's
right,
already
right,
in
right.
you, so you don't have to go out.
I
I'm
love that. You just step into alignment, right?
Yeah. I'm
You
not
just step
there
into
yet.
the
I'm
alignment.
still in practice.
Yeah.
I can
Listen,
intellectually get there, but I'm not like, I have to every day sit down in meditation and remind myself.
hi. Not only the president, also a client. I tell people all the time, like we do
Yeah.
interviews and they're like, oh, so Dinorah Nieves, she's an expert. I'm like, oh, that's nice and wrong. That is so flattering and inaccurate at the same damn time, right? That's what makes us good coaches, I think, you and
Yeah.
I, is because what people resonate with is not my perfection, right? As if there could be any, right? But my being able to thrive in practicing better habits than I once had, because that's what people really want, is to
Hmm.
just be able to thrive in practicing better habits than they have now. That's it. I'm not striving for perfection. It'd be nice, but it ain't happening.
Well, I was just talking to a friend of mine who is awakened. I mean, he truly is awakened. I talk to him and his energy is like, like I feel like when I talk to him, it's like the world is present
Yeah,
in
yeah,
me.
yeah.
He is this kind of person, and he just got really, really ill. He has been down a surgery that's somewhat like not routine, but shouldn't have taken him a month to recover. He's taken a
Yeah.
month for him to recover, and he has been through incredible pain. And I said, so, and he said, and I've learned so much. Like my spirituality has evolved. So he's taken this really painful, awful experience. I mean, he's like I don't even want to go on air because it's truly awful.
Yeah, yeah.
And he said, but you know what? I'm realizing that I'm always learning. And I think I feel inspired by him because I think when you really think I'm always learning, life is about experiencing and learning. And so if you're not like a hair club member suffering,
Right.
then you're not, you know what I mean? You're not I in some ways I feel like, well,
Yeah,
you're not living. If
yeah,
you're not living life because you're playing it so safe that you never are pushing the edge, never learning.
yeah,
So I don't know. I think it's a little bit. I think
yeah,
that there's probably some point because he's at that point where he feels the fullness and the infiniteness, and there's still this growing edge of learning deeper and deeper into even when you are an awakened, probably an enlightened being, there's even
yeah,
more. There's never a
yeah,
cap. And so I think it's hubris when we think that there is a cap
yeah.
and we're
And
there. It's like if someone who's awake and doesn't feel like he has a cap, then what the hell am I, like,
right, right. What am I judging myself on the basis of?
yes.
Right? So there's that. Yeah. And I think the other thing is, look, we're safety first all the time, right?
Hmm.
People, that's why our egos are so powerful, because we're safety first. That's our first priority, our first concern. And so there's something beautiful and safe about the idea of achievement,
Hmm.
right? We're there. We got there, which is why we're such an outcome focused, outcome oriented society. I get it. It's not necessarily wrong. It just in this world here doesn't help us,
Hmm.
because then we're always judging ourselves against what we believe we should have accomplished by now,
Right.
right? And it creates that discrepancy between what we think we should be and who we are, which then further isolates us from who we really are, which is
Hmm.
perfect already. So I think, I tell people all the time, I got no good answers. I got some good stuff to share, but no good answers. Mostly what people will come to me is for the best questions you've ever heard in your life. I got the best questions. And basically my joy is in finding the courage to live in a way where I'm constantly asking those questions. And I
Yeah.
think that for me has been really, really helpful.
Yeah.
And if I can give that to someone, then mission accomplished.
Yeah, and
And
you
if
have.
not,
You have. It's in this book.
and by the way, away if you're interested. Pick up Love You
Yeah, exactly.
and Love You, the workbook.
Yes, it's in the book. Like you've taken it may not be every question, but it's like all the big ones, right? If you're, like I think about when you work out at the gym and you want to work out all the major muscles, like these are all the major muscles that you want to work out. So if you want to work out the major muscles, 24 exercises, I swear if you just did these exercises for the rest of your life, you would be fine. Because these are exercises that you can do. And then that's what I love about coaching, is because it is ultimately practical, is that there are 24 exercises that you will use for the rest of your life over and over and over again. It never gets old. You could just have one workbook in your life and, figure out all the things you need.
When I wrote this, and a lot of my clients read it, and it is helpful, I think. It offers my story and how I got to wellness, and then, takes you through how I did those things. But I think ultimately the reason I wrote the workbook was for exactly what you said, because even my clients were like, but how do I do that? Like, it was nice to hear about how you did it and how you got there and how it helped you. And that helped me think in some ways about what I might do. But what can I do right now today? Because I'm really pissed. I'm really upset. I'm really scared. I'm really tired, right? Tired is the main reason people come to me.
Right.
My practice is largely consumed with overachievers because, hi.
Yeah.
And also, and you're successful and not happy, and you don't know how this happened without this because you were sure they went together. And that's what we work a lot on is exhaustion, fatigue, because people are tired. They're tired of building and hoping and praying and putting things together. The overachievers were high control freaks, right?
Yes.
And it's all supposed to work exactly as we wanted it to, and then poof, everything blows up. And
yes.
then
Me too. I'm right there with you. I love it. Thank you so much for your time and
Thank you
to
so
put
much
all
for your
this in this
time.
book. I love you, the workbook, Dr. Dinorah Nieves. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me and for doing the work.
Yes. Right. So we'll cut it there. So that was great. That was really fun.
It was fun. I love talking to you. That was so easy.
Have you been doing a lot of these? When did the book come out?
So the book came out in February of 2016, and then, sorry, 2017. We're in 2018 already.
Yeah, I know. My taxes are in 2016, so I was right there with you. I'm like, yep, I'm in 2016.
The book came out Valentine's Day 2017.
Okay,
and
got it.
then I just put out the workbook and the Latina Edition just recently, and that's when I really said, okay, I need to get this out to some people, because when I wrote the book, I wrote it really just to get it out of myself.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
And maybe to get it to some folks.
Right.
But then I started to see that it might be helpful, and so that's when I felt more of a responsibility to promote it. So, as opposed to when it was just helpful to me.
If it's like a birthing a baby, like, oh, here, take this. Ugh. Just do what you want with the baby now.
Exactly. Get this placenta stuff off my hands. Yeah, that's how I felt.
Yeah. Wow. So that's exciting. So this just came. The workbook just came out in the Latina version. That's why Beth.
Actually, I noticed that you had one that had a typo, so I will get you a clean one.
Oh,
but,
okay.
Yeah.
I have one that has a typo. Where's the typo? I don't even see the typo.
When you sent me your exercises, I was like, oh, that's not the right thing.
Well, I'm glad that I found it then. Where is it? What exercise? I did not even notice it.
Well, I'm glad that you didn't notice it, but I will tell you where it is. It is in the Be Honest section.
Oh, I did not even notice.
And it was on page 125, and it's the Do you feel responsible for the feelings of making sure that he or she is okay?
Oh, yeah. I was wondering what the for I'm like, oh, okay, well, whatever. Like,
that's a fancy word, yeah.
I just figured, oh, this must be part of the work, the thing. I didn't even think twice about it.
That's the nice thing about having a PhD after my name, honey. $120,000 later, people don't pay attention to my mistakes.
Exactly. I love it. Oh my God, you are hilarious. I love your personality and your energy and your self-effacing thing. It's really quite wonderful. Are you having fun with these interviews?
I am. It's been a good time. I think some interviews. Are we off air?
Yeah. No, so you cut off. I didn't hear what you said. Some interviews are what?
I said, are we off air?
Yeah, we are. Yeah, no, I'm not going to record this.
I think, what's very interesting to me, and I don't know if you relate to this, but there are very few women of color in this industry.
In coaching?
Yeah.
Wow, I never thought about
And
it.
particularly, so as I've even been promoting the book, and I just had this conversation with another woman of color who's also, is a coach and also a writer. And so what's been really interesting to me is just even comparing some of those experiences, like
Mm-hmm.
I've had like 20, 30 press interviews in the last
Mm-hmm.
few weeks.
Wow, that's a
And
lot.
yeah, you are my second woman of color
Wow.
and my first woman of color on air. The
Wow,
other one was for an article.
wow, that's weird.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
I wonder
so,
what that means. What does that even mean? I'm like,
oh,
what does that mean? What does it mean?
freaking endangered species.
Well, you know why? Here's what I would think for at least I can talk about my people. I think for my people, like, Asian people
My
go.
clan of people. Yeah.
Well, I mean, Chinese people don't go. Like where I'm going, most Chinese people, like Lao Tzu, fine. Like that's a philosopher.
Yeah,
He's
yeah, yeah,
dead. Okay,
yeah,
but
yeah,
most Chinese
yeah,
people,
yeah.
they don't go down this path. I mean,
Mhm.
they may do it in their private lives, but they don't. They're
Won't do it publicly.
yeah, they're quiet. That's not like the things I'm doing. I mean, I'm sure it would horrify my mother if she saw me offering this private, but I'm like, what the hell? These are
Yeah.
like the things that I'm going through, I offer them not because it's because these are universal things. Everything that I mentioned, people are like, I'm going through that too. So when they hear it, it's like,
It
I'm
resonates.
going through that too. That's what
Yeah.
that is. I didn't even realize that I was doing that. Now I have, like, if you have someone who's conscious and they're offering all the things that they're going through, it really helps.
Yeah.
So, but I think
And
there's
that
no,
connection is so important, right? And we thrive off of that connection. But I think you're right. It's funny that you brought that up because that's exactly what the other woman that I was having the conversation with said, that her mother would be mortified. And I think the same thing because we really, so I've been to a lot of AA meetings in my life. I don't suffer from addiction, thankfully, but there, but by the grace of God, right? And
yeah.
I've gone with friends and family members and whatever. And one of the things that stem those are only as sick as your secrets.
Yeah.
And I never thought about that until I heard it, and then I was like, oh my God, it's so
You're
true.
only as
And I
what as
think
your secrets? Are you?
as sick as your secrets.
Oh, wow.
You're as sick as your secrets. And it's so funny because I think coming from communities of color where we're traditionally and historically oppressed, there's this idea that we have to put our best foot forward, that we can't show any
That's true,
flaws,
actually. That's
right?
true.
That we can't be out in the world giving anyone any ammunition against us. And so we have to constantly present our best selves. And
Yeah.
there's this pressure to do that. And what it does is it creates a whole community of secrets. And
Yeah.
then you can't normalize experiences for other people and help each other grow out of them because you're too busy protecting your secret.
Yeah, that's really there's this body of work called the Family Secrecy Act where you list every single family secret that you've
Oh,
ever
I'm gonna
kept.
write that down right now.
It's if I can, where is this? I'll send you the protocol if you want it for your own work
Yeah,
with
please.
clients.
I'd love that.
Yeah, because
I also wrote down the Chinese 9 star key. I'm gonna look that up today too.
it's not that interesting, but I think it's basically there's just I can share I'll probably can send you models that are more interesting. It's just the one that I have. Let's see.
Yeah.
I'm trying to figure out this one could be interesting too. Good mother messages, good father messages. Have you ever seen
Mm,
those? Messages that we're supposed to say to ourselves that we somehow negate from our whole life. Let's see. So where's the family? Oh, dysfunctional. Oh, there's all sorts of stuff in this body of work. Have you ever heard of Judith Swack?
nope, but I'm writing her down.
Um, dysfunctional family systems pattern. No, that's not attempted. Dysfunctional family. I think this is okay. Here, I'll send it to you. It's so if you ever want, just call me and I can step you through. If this looks interesting to you, I'll step you through this.
Okay.
The idea is that we have all these family secrets that we keep from each other. And then what happens is, and so this model is all about Satan, and like it's, so you kind of have to like take it with a grain of salt. Yeah, just think about it as like a negative energy, fear, because otherwise people get really tripped up and then they throw the work away because they get tripped up with the terminology. But so you figure out.
I don't have the luxury of throwing away the baby with the bathwater, or I'd never read anything.
Yep.
Because I got opinions about anything.
Yeah, so this is just, I'll tell you about I did this family secrecy contract, and so it's this, like, you create this dysfunctional family because of everything that you just mentioned. You have so many different secrets. You can't even keep track of them all. You have so many freaking secrets, and then it just creates like this web of deceit and and complication because you can't even remember all the secrets. And then what happens is you're not free. You're not free as a person. And so I did this in class. So you'd learn the material and then you would do. And I did one and listed all the family secrets from my mom's side of the family. Or I think both. I can't remember. But I listed all the family secrets. I did the energy work to remove it. And then my mom called me up like 2 days later, and she was just like revealing all these secrets to me that she had never told me before. It was bizarre. Like when I released, like she would never, I was like, what the fuck is that?
Pandora?
I know. I was just like, what?
Come get your box.
I mean, it was just kind of, no, it was so cool because it was a beautiful thing because somehow when I released holding on to these secrets, it allowed her to release holding on to her own secrets that she's been told by others. And so that was like a domino effect, and it just cleared. And when that happened, something shifted with her sister. So like, it's so fascinating how the web of energy. So I changed, it changed my mom, and then something changed with her sister. She accessed
something, yeah.
Well, actually, sadly, I forgot. Well, I shouldn't. Well, yeah, her sister died after this. Like, so it's just that's
the greatest release of all time, by the way.
Honestly, like to just not have to live with these like stuck truths that are just they're vile, they're just full of toxic material.
Yeah.
And so
I tell people, if you're willing to take it to the grave, just make sure that, that grave is going to come sooner.
Yeah. I love all these phrases that you
make your choices accordingly.
You need to like type these into like aphorisms. Like, here's some things that I love saying because they're fantastic. Who are you?
Remember them afterwards. But
I know. Well, it's funny. It's true. I don't even remember because for me, like at a certain point, it's not even coming from me anyways. It's coming from I did this workshop for this group of women, and I said to myself, I am not the doer. Just remember, I'm not the doer. And, I'd done the PowerPoint, so I did something, and I put together a choreography of what should happen that evening. But I'm like, I'm not the doer.
Yep.
And I freaking have no idea. Like, I'm not even sure what happened during that workshop. People were asking me like some of the hardest questions that I've ever been asked. And I don't even know how I answered it. Like someone said, like, how do you know if it's your ego? I'm thinking about this question. I don't know if I know if it's like if I'm working through intuition or if I'm working through something else.
Oh, I love that you said that. Oh my God, I love that you said that. Go.
Is that what you do?
Yes.
And I was just like, I have no, like, I'm not, like, when your mind goes, and I was like, I have no freaking idea what the answer is. And I just sat there and I tuned in inside and I said, well, you'll know. And I just like something blurted out of my mouth. I'm like, yeah, that's good. That's actually good. Whatever blurted out of your mouth. That's the right answer. Like, yeah, I don't have to do anything.
People will be like, oh my God, that what you just said was brilliant. I'm like, what I just say?
Yeah. 'Cause it's not me. I don't even remember who it is
It
anyways.
comes through you.
Yeah.
And that's what I try to tell people. Like when I am super brilliant
Yeah.
in the moment, right?
Right.
Because if I can be in the moment, it's just coming through me. It's
Yes.
just using me. I am just channeling, right?
Yeah.
And so people be like, "Oh, how'd you come up with that?" I'm like, it
What I
came up with
say?
it came up with me. I don't know. It came. I didn't come up with it. It came up with me.
I know the scariest thing is always meeting people like, do you know, I actually had someone and they said, do you know when in like right it was like 2015 and I was like, what? And they were like, yeah, in 2015 you told me not to sell my Microsoft stock because it would go up and that I needed to wait for 2 months and I was like, oh my God, like I should not be like I don't know anything about
I should not be dispensing financial advice.
like
I
this.
have a clause about that in my coaching agreement. I will not be liable for whatever I
I
say.
know. I was like, oh my God. And I was like, well, what happened? And she's like, oh, I made all this money. I'm like, thank God. Or people will say, do you remember when you told me I was thinking about taking a job? And sometimes I say really like just obnoxious things. And it's like there were jobs at Microsoft where people were taking jobs to be like the right-hand man or woman from like that was like an in thing. And the thing with those anyway, so I said to this guy, seriously, you want to be Louis Levin's butt boy? Like, why would you take it from him? It's just like stuff and I said that. And he said, yes. You said that, and I thought, I better not take that job. But just stuff is just like rolls out of my mouth. It's horrifying.
I'm telling you, I had a client write me a letter that said the most powerful thing I ever experienced. Oh no, we were on the phone, and she's like, I came back because the best thing that ever happened to me was when you called me a liar. I was like, oh, I could have found a better way to say that. My bad. That was largely insensitive of me.
But it was probably
in retrospect.
that was probably the exact thing that you needed to say in order for her to kind of like snap her out of whatever delusional spell that she was in.
Yeah.
Okay, this was so much fun. Where are you in New York? Where are you?
I'm in San Diego right now, so I split my time between San Diego and New York. So I'm here till the holidays, and then because this is how my life is set up, my partner and I are on a ride to Santa Barbara for 3 days to do Christmas with my stepdaughters because they're there. And then I'm overnight to be in New York Christmas morning. He spends Christmas with the girls, and then he meets me in New York on the 27th.
Wow. So you're split between San Diego and New York. And that's how you met Beth. Isn't she fantastic?
Beth?
Yeah.
Oh my God, I love her.
She loves you. She's just like, oh my God, you've got to.
Yeah, no, she's so great. She's such a light spirit, right?
Yeah.
Don't you love a light spirit?
I do.
Because there are just people that you're like, as soon as your phone rings and their name pops up, you can feel the air getting sucked into the device. They're like those things from Harry Potter.
Yeah, like wraiths.
Whenever I see Beth's name, I'm like, yes, that's a good one.
I'll answer it now. I feel like lightness and rainbows.
I attract these kind of people now.
I know. I feel lucky that I actually have some of the people that I've interviewed have been great. So I'll send this over to you. It's been fantastic talking to you.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I had a great time. Hopefully we'll talk soon.
Okay, bye, my dear. Okay. Thank you. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.
It means so much to me that you're listening to the show. Would love your support in any way by giving me comments below or to subscribe to the show or share the show with friends. Thank you again for your support. Love and blessings.